And there's been a boom in recent years in people growing their own fruit and veg, but according to the National Trust, that could be about to end.
It says proposals to change the planning system would mean land that could have been used as allotments will instead be built on by developers. The Trust's Director General, Dame Fiona Reynolds, is here, along with Communities and Local Government Minister Andrew Stannell. Good morning.
Good morning.
To you both. Dame Fiona, let me start with you. Allotments are hugely important to people, and they're in short supply already because there are waiting lists. Are they really that endangered?
Well, there's about 90,000 people on waiting lists already. We've been rushing ahead with our own programme to provide allotments. We said we'd do 1,000 in 3 years, and we're today announcing that we've got there 6 months early. And there's been an absolutely overwhelming response to them. But these new planning proposals, which we're obviously in the middle of a very intense debate about, what we fear is that the pressure for economic development, and that being the overriding priority, will squeeze out all the kinds of things that make places lovely places to live. And growing food and vegetables in local communities is one of the nicest things that there's been a real boom around in recent years.
Yeah, and I mean, Andrew, this is clearly for the National Trust, you know, a key issue and sort of an example locally of how they're worried these planning reforms are going to affect people. The accusation, which I think you had a meeting about yesterday, is that economic reform is sort of taking over and the planning is just being pushed through and things like allotments suffer as a result.
Well, let's start with allotments. It's absolutely untrue that there is any threat to allotments as a result of the planning reforms that we're putting forward. Completely the opposite, in fact, because local communities will have the ability in the future to dictate what the local plan for them should be and to set aside those allotments. And of course, existing allotments are protected under legislation at the moment. So let's get that one out of the way first. What we're trying to make sure happens is that we do have a planning system that can respond to what local communities do want, rather than them always chasing after applications trying to stop things.
What about this headline on the front page of the Daily Telegraph this morning? Government admits developers could build, quote, what they like, where they like, under the reforms.
Well, there's a difference between a Daily Telegraph headline and the actual reality of the legislation that we're putting forward. I'm saying that's wrong. Yes, absolutely so.
The point that we're making is that in the draft planning guidance it says that where there isn't an up-to-date development plan, the default answer to any development proposal will be yes. Now that puts local communities in a very difficult position. I actually agree with Mr. Stannell. You know, we do want local communities to have a say over their area, but when the overwhelming climate is around economy at all costs, and if there's no development plan, no chance to shape it, then local communities are going to find that very hard.
Just give before we come back in, just give us an example. You've got a piece of land. You would like there to be allotments there. A supermarket would like to build there. What is your concern something that direct, that actually, under the proposals, the supermarket gets carte blanche to build, and because local people haven't said specifically we want allotments, they don't get built?
Yes, it could be a supermarket, it might be local housing, it might be all kinds of things. The point is that if the current planning reforms are not changed dramatically, and the tone, the economic primacy tone is the thing we're most worried about, then actually what will happen is that the developers will feel really confident that their proposals will go through, and local people will not have the ability to make any real impact.
I quite understand Fiona's concerns, and if they had any strength, I would be very concerned as well. What we are saying is where development takes place, it's got to be sustainable. That's environmentally sustainable, it's got to be sustainable as far as the community is concerned, and of course it's got to be economically sustainable as well.
But just dealing with this particular case, what would the government's opinion be that a supermarket is more sustainable than allotments? Because if you're trying to drive economic growth, it would provide jobs, it would provide all sorts of boosts to the local economy, whereas you could argue allotments wouldn't.
Well, let's go back and be quite clear about this. The government won't be deciding that. Local communities will be deciding that. They will be looking at their local community. They will be saying, how do we provide the jobs? Where do we find the housing? What are the amenities we want? We want a local plan which will deliver that. That's what the planning system that we're proposing will allow to happen. And the current, Fiona has made an important point about how we get from the current planning system, which is entirely top-down, to one where local people have more of a say in what goes on. We've got point B, and that's what we're consulting on. We're going to have to do some more work on joining A to B.
If local people want them, they'll have them.
All we're asking for is that prevailing tone that the economy comes first to be taken away. Then I'm quite happy that we can reconcile the economic, social and environmental goals. But with that prevailing tone, that's the problem.
Have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.